Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 24-25 funding cycle overview and question and answer webinar. Again, I'm Christine Casera, and I'm the BRAC liaison. We're going to be taking questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand throughout the webinar, and please also feel free to use the chat feature. All questions are going to be recorded and answered and put on our website next week. Just to give you a little bit of background about the annual proceeds that support these research grants, the legislature provides $21 million in funding. For the James and Esther King Biomedical Research Program, we get $8 million. For Bankhead Coley Cancer Research Program, we receive $10 million. And for the Live Like Bella Pediatric Cancer Research Program, we receive $3 million. Let's take that next page because I already basically said that. Just to give you a little bit of background, I wanted to share with you all, the department did a long-term impact survey of biomedical researchers, and these are the outcomes. Over 72% of researchers reported that the grant funding helped them receive tenure and promotion. And 54%, almost 54.5% of the research said that the funding provided basis for research for patents and or treatments currently used in patient care. And 90% of respondents said that the funding led to them receiving additional federal grant funding. I also included the link for our annual report if you want to take a look at that and get more information about the long-term impact survey. The first grant that we're going to discuss is James and Esther King Biomedical Research Program. The priority for this program is related to tobacco use and illnesses that result of the use of tobacco, and to find a cure for those diseases. The goals are to improve the health of Florida families, to expand the biological knowledge throughout the state, improve the quality of the state's academic health centers, increase research funding in the state. I believe last time we looked, I think we're number 15 nationwide in NIH funding. Also to stimulate economic activity through statewide research and become a premier destination for cancer research here in the state. As a reminder, I think this is in another slide as well, but you're going to need letters of support if you're going to be doing a tobacco-related or cessation program. You're going to need a letter of support from our Bureau of Tobacco-Free Florida. You have the contact there. Just to give you an overview over the past 5 years, these are the grants that applications received and the grants funded. As you can see, it's highly competitive. Last year, we received 60 King applications, and we were only, with the funding received, we were only able to fund 9 of those applicants. The Bankhead Coley Research Program priority is to cure cancer and improve treatment options for different types of cancer. The goals are to expand cancer research capacity, improve research and treatment through greater pediatric and adult participation in clinical trials, and reduce the impact of cancer in disparate groups. Now, I got a little stumbled there because it said pediatric, but Bankhead Coley does allow grant applications that are specific to pediatric cancers. Here you can see the applications received over the last 5 years for Bankhead Coley. Last year, we received 104 applications, and we funded 17 grants. The Live Like Bella Pediatric Cancer Initiative, the priority is to improve treatment and find a cure for pediatric cancer. It's our smallest program. The goals are to expand pediatric cancer research capacity, improve research and treatment, and reduce the impact of pediatric cancer on disparate groups. Again, this is our smallest grant program, and it's very limited. Last year, we received the most applications that we received. Historically, we received 42 applications, and we were only able to fund 8. And with that competition, like I said previously, there is the option to apply for Bankhead Coley funding for pediatric cancer and other research. Just a quick overview of the application process. Every year we get our annual grant funding from the legislature. Our Biomedical Research Advisory Council meets and approves the funding opportunity announcement. The FOA is posted and we begin a question and answer period. The next step is for you to submit your letter of intent. After your letter of intent is submitted, it goes through an administrative review. And once the review is completed and all the applicants have been selected as viable for application, the grant proposal submission period begins. We'll go through an administrative review. And after the administrative review, we have all applications go through a peer review of 3 peer reviewers and independent reviewers that are outside of the state. And about the top 10, usually the top 30% proceed to panel review. And once the reviews are completed, they go to the Biomedical Research Advisory Council for review of the score summaries, and they make the funding recommendations to the state Surgeon General. And yeah. Next is the mechanisms of support. I want to let you know that this portion of the FOA is going to need an addendum because we added a new mechanism of support, but we did not add it to the table. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. These are the different mechanisms of support. We actually have 10 research priorities, not 7 or 8. We actually have 10 for Bankhead Coley and James and Esther King programs. From discovery science, high risk, high reward discovery science, research infrastructure, clinical trials, social behavioral interventions, high risk, high reward clinical trials, bridge grants, equipment, which is fairly new, non-typical clinical trials, social behavioral research, also fairly new, and new investigator research, which was also added, I believe, 2 years ago. We're adding one more mechanism of support, which we're going to talk in a moment about, but that's going to be, the grant mechanism is going to be emerging therapeutics and technologies, and the maximum amount is going to be $600,000 for 36 months. The mechanisms of support for the Live Like Bella are similar to Bankhead Coley and James and Esther King. With the omission of discovery science, we have multi-center trials, high risk, high reward, clinical trials, discovery science. Oh, we did have discovery science, it's just in different order. Perfect. High risk, high reward discovery science, bridge grants, equipment, non-typical clinical trials, social behavioral research, new investigator research, and again, the new one is emerging therapeutics and technologies. Emerging therapeutics and technologies, those grants will support research on emerging therapeutics and technologies used in the diagnosis and treatment of cancer and tobacco-related diseases, specifically for the James and Esther King program. And examples include personalized precision medicine therapies, immunotherapy, gene therapy, repurposing of previously used medications, use of artificial intelligence in diagnosis and treatment of different diseases and emerging treatments, and studies focused on innovations in diagnosis and treatment of cancer and tobacco-related morbidities. Talking a little bit about letters of support, application conducting research with the Department of Health data must include a letter of support. And the proposed data elements for each data system that will be requested must be provided to the administrator prior to the letter of support being issued. For example, if you're conducting research using data from the Florida Cancer Data System, you must include a letter of support from Heather Lakeberger. And if you're requesting data from the Bureau of Vital Statistics, your contact would be Gary Samet. His email is included as well. All researchers conducting behavioral health research, including tobacco cessation and control, must include a letter of support from the Tobacco Free Florida. We have the contact for them as well. All letters of support must be submitted to the appropriate Department of Health office no later than August 15th, so that you can get it back in time for the application. For previous funding opportunity announcement, just wanted to remind everyone that staff is not able to provide any feedback on your priority areas or mechanisms of support. Additionally, we can't provide any feedback on your proposal or your research ideas. A corresponding principal investigator can only submit one application to the biomedical research grant programs. If a co-PI submits a grant to Bankhead, Coley, and to Live Like Bella, the applications cannot be the same. They have to be different. Also, be mindful of the due date for requests and letters of support, which is August 15th. To not wait to complete your letter of intent for your grant application. That deadline's coming soon. And also the system closes at 5. So if you're working on it, make sure that you're done before 5 p.m. on the deadline. There's a designated question and answer period, such as we're having today, and we'll be responding to your questions. But in addition, if you visit our library, forms library and resources, we do have all of the previous questions that might have been asked in other funding opportunity announcements. So you can take a look through there, and if you might have a question that might be answered there. Once you've submitted your application or your letter of intent, you cannot change the title. You must use the required forms for budget and for your biosketch. The biosketch is the NIH format, and they're both on the online. You'll be able to find them at PeerNet on the online application. You can be disqualified if you don't use the required forms. When completing your application, be sure to address all questions applicable to your research, particularly when it involves human subjects, vertebrate animals, stem cell, and so on. Most of you by now should be familiar with the PeerNet system. That's the application system that we use for LOIs, the application, also for all correspondence and forms. Everything we do pre, and post grant is done on PeerNet. Research staff can be added to grant folders, and post-execution administrative contacts should be added as contributors. So basically what that's saying is that the PI is probably the primary person who's going to register on the PeerNet, and anyone else that they want to assist them in the completion of the application or in the future reporting or submitting any additional documentation must be added as a contributor to PeerNet to be able to access the system. If you're not funded, you'll receive all of your peer review comments. I will tell you that last year I got a phone call from an investigator who was not funded, and he had requested the feedback, and it wasn't readily available as quickly as we'd like, or he would have liked. But eventually we got it back, and I got a second phone call from him stating that that was the best feedback he's ever gotten on a grant, and that he felt that that would really help him for reapplying again with us, and also for federal funding. So we find that those peer reviews are very helpful to you in the long term, not just for our grant opportunity, but for other grant opportunities that you may have. Post-funding cycle analysis indicates that about 30% of the resubmitted research grant proposals are awarded. Some administrative considerations and related to your budget. The grant does allow for research participant incentives such as cash, checks, or gift cards. Those are all allowable, and you would include it detail in your budget. When planning your budget, if you're working with research participants, a level 2 background screen is required of all research staff, and grant funding can be used for that cost. Also, travel supported with these grants must comply with the state of Florida travel guidelines as referenced in statute. Plan your budgets by months and not years. Our grants operate on a fiscal year, which is July to June every year. An example of how you would establish your budget. Now, we anticipate that the projects will begin in April, so that'll give us 3 months in the first fiscal year. So you'll need to plan your budget for 3 months for the first year, and then the second and third year for 12 months. And then the fourth year would be 9 months for your total of 36 months. We're going to be taking any questions that you may have, but also any additional questions that you may have in the next few days, you can address to our research mailbox. We'll be taking questions through August 13th, and then they will be posted a few days later on the 16th. So if you have any questions now, we'll take those. If there's any in the chat, we'll start with those. And then if you have any additional questions, just raise your hand and we'll follow up on that.
Yep.
Real quick, just to let you know before we take the questions, the last page just has some helpful links. Those are the links to the funding opportunity announcements, and the last link is for our libraries and forms. There's a lot of information in our libraries and forms, all of our deliverable reports. I believe there's a sample terms and conditions there as well. Possibly, I believe, like a sample invoice. So if you just want to peruse that just to see how the program operates, that's a good reference for you. Okay, so we'll take questions now.
So the first question we have is from Paulo, is for the bankhead coli, the preferential cancers are melanoma, breast, lung, colorectal, and prostate, but then it says that this year leukemias are a priority. He wants to know which ones are the priority, one or the other or both.
I'm gonna have to take a look at that, and we'll definitely respond directly in our responses, but I would say that it's both.
Next question is a non-preferred cancer not realistic to pursue or still stands some chance of success? What is the difference between project personnel and collaborator? Thanks.
I am not 100% sure I understand that your question, Dr. Guru. Not sure I understand. Is a non-preferred cancer. We do have priorities for those types of cancers. And we'll be sure to answer that a little bit more clearly in our response to you. And the difference between personnel and collaborators, project personnel is staff that's going to work directly on the research project that you include in your budget as staff that's going to be working in the project. And collaborators may be, collaborators in PeerNet are staff that work with you who are going to be assisting you in reporting or submitting reports. As far as your research goes, any collaborators, those are probably going to be considered consultants, not co-PIs, but possibly consultants that may assist you with your research project. And you would just need to delineate that in your grant application, really detail who your collaborators are, where they're located, and how they're going to contribute to the research that you're conducting.
Paulo asked the possibility of co-PIs.
Co-PIs are definitely allowed.
This one's hard to read.
They might have to get closer.
Can the eligible applicant be defined in section D, duplication, application, and overlap limits on page 19 of the current funding announcement? More specifically, does eligible applicant refer to submitting PI or institution?
That is a lot of questions. We will respond to that one in writing as well. Sure.
Very specific. Next one is on page 10 of the BRAC funding opportunity. It indicates for the research infrastructure mechanism, organizations will only be permitted to be the lead on one application, but may be collaborators on applications submitted by other organizations. I can see that the research infrastructure mechanism only applies to the Bankhead Foley and James and Esther King research programs. However, it is one per organization per research program, i.e. limit of one Bankhead Foley and one for King, or one per organization overall, one for the Bankhead Foley or King. On page 19 of the same funding opportunity, it indicates that eligible applicants can submit one application in the Bella initiative, one application to the Bankhead Foley program, and one application to the James and Esther King program. Does applicant there refer to the principal investigator or the applicant organization? In other words, are PIs limited to one application per program, or is the application limited to only submitting one application for the entire organization? To only submitting one application for the entire organization to each of these programs.
That will also be included in our written response questions. We want to make sure that we answer all of your questions succinctly as possible, and that we'll provide a response to that. I believe that it's not limited to organization or PI. I think it's limited to program, and I believe you can apply to more than one program so long as it's not the same research.
Can research sciences be the PI on the Bankhead Foley proposals?
Not sure I understand that question, but we'll respond.
Could you please comment on the new investigator research program?
Let's take a look. I'm not really sure on that, what to respond to this. All right, new investigator, page 13. Check page 13 of the application. Under new investigator research, it's the intent of the mechanism is to foster development of new investigators. And I believe that would probably be investigators who have not received funding from us before. So that they can undertake independent research that's competitive for national research funding. So it's basically trying to get new or emerging new PIs to be able to get these grants, because a lot of times we are funding a lot of established PIs are getting are more apt to get more funding. So this mechanism is to try to help new investigators trying to start new research get grants. It also states that new investigators must have been full-time faculty for no more than 6 years and must work under the mentorship of a senior investigator. That's on page 13 of the funding opportunity announcement.
The next question is, it says, please provide an update on the more Alzheimer's disease research program. The link to the 2024 grant guidance does not appear to be working.
The Ed and Ethel Moore disease research program is pending. The FOA is pending and has not been published yet. That is going to be coming in the next couple of weeks.
For new investigator research, a senior investigator is needed as a mentor. Is associate professor or professor needed?
We'll have to provide additional feedback on that question.
And post-doctorals, PICO, PIs, I'm assuming.
Right. I would assume so, but we will definitely include that in our response.
For James and Esther King Biomedical, do we have to do with tobacco, wood, STH like obesity and cancer relationship be eligible?
I believe we funded a project similar to that, where you're looking at obesity and cancer in people who smoke. So with James and Esther King, it has to be tobacco related. So if your research is looking at how smokers who are obese, how that contributes to tobacco related cancers, then it would be viable.
Make collaborator / consultant be out of state?
As a consultant, yes, as long as they meet all of the other eligibility criteria.
Is there a deadline to request letters of support from FCDS
August 15th.
and Heather Lakeberger? I guess that's the same thing. Equipment grants. This question about equipment grants. What if the equipment is, I believe, under 500K or over 100K? Which is the allocated budget? How can we find examples of previously funded equipment applications? Thank you.
For our most recent grant applicants, we did receive an award, an equipment grant. It was at $100,000, but the university was able to secure the additional funding to purchase the equipment.
Will you post more information on the new mechanism of funding emerging therapeutics and technologies?
Yes.
New investigators must have been full-time faculty for no more than 6 years and must work under the mentorship of a senior investigator. How will the 6 years be calculated? How will the 6 years?
Good question.
So to clarify, I heard my question was unclear, but if the cancer is not one of your 5 preferred priority cancers, I assume there is a chance, even if smaller chance of success. It's not one of the 5 easy ones.
It really depends on the application and what the research is doing. Ultimately, the board looks at the top 25 to 30% scoring applicants. However, they do have the ability, if they identify someone that was pretty close, an application that came pretty close, but it addresses one of the priorities or the goals of the program, it's possible to fund a project whose doesn't exactly meet those, but those are the priority areas. So it's quite possible that you might not get funded. But let me look into that a little bit further and think that through and get some feedback here at the department, and we'll respond to that a little bit better for you. Question?
Are there other state-funded grants you would recommend? I'm seeing this funding opportunity would not fund a medical device for cardiac surgery, non-cancer related.
Perhaps with NIH, and we can provide in our response some additional references.
This is the last one. It says page 13, all letters of support must be submitted to the appropriate Department of Health office no later than August 15th, 2024. Does it refer to the LOS request?
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
And then the next question is, when you say you will respond later, will we get an email or will you post the responses on the website?
The responses will be posted on our website. Once our response period is ended, we can no longer take any questions. So between the 15th and the 16th, this is your opportunity until the 16th, or I believe it's the 16th, to ask your questions, and all questions, including the ones in the chat. Any additional questions received from you directly in our research mailbox, all of those questions will be answered and posted on our website.
Will applicants receive reviewer comments following funding decisions?
Yes, it takes a little while to get them, but you do get them eventually.
Is breast cancer considered a smoking related malignancy?
We'll follow up on that.
Are proposals addressing cardiopulmonary diseases related to smoking and HIV positive individuals in a priority for the James and Esther King Biomedical Research Program?
Cardiopulmonary diseases are definitely considered, any cardiopulmonary diseases are considered in the James and Esther King program.
Any questions for now?
Last call for questions.
Can the collaborators be investigators outside the U.S.?
No.
Appears to be all the questions.
And just a reminder that if you have any additional questions, we need to get them by August 13th, and the responses will be posted on August 16th.
And this video will be available after.
Correct. This webinar has been recorded, and it's also going to be available on our website. So if you have anyone in your university or institution that you want to share this with, they'll be able to participate, and anyone who missed it will be able to get on and watch the recording. Great. If there's no more questions, we wish you all the best of luck in your applications, and look forward to any additional questions you may have. Thank you so much.